It's you wasn't born in the 80s. My father didn't end up a crackhead. You hear the point I'm making? I'm not going to end up permanently selling drugs for the rest of my life. Oh, well, you some type of special person. No, I'm not. I have integrity. So them niggas that fell by the wayside, it's just niggas that fell by the wayside. You hear what I'm making? And we could say, well, it's a whole generation of them. It's not just these individuals. I mean, well, whole generations of weak-ass motherfuckers. You all hear the point? And you know, not to be, you know, vulgar, but I'm just keeping it real. You got to call it what it is. They stood for something in the CIA and fell off from that and other. No, you fell off. You fell off. You all hear what I'm saying? It's a reality. And we get mad because the European is standing for something. You want to get at him, then you really stand for something. That's the way you get at him. Don't be mad that he got the courage to stand for something consistently, making excuses for yourself. You know what I'm saying? You'll never become victorious that way. So these individuals didn't stand for nothing in the beginning. Because if I stand for here at 2 o'clock, at 3 o'clock I should still be standing right here, right? If I stood for it at 2. Do you feel the point I'm making? But if it's 2 o'clock and I'm doing this and this, then at 3 o'clock I won't be standing in either place either, will I? Y'all follow the point that I'm making? So the only way you can see what people stood for is what they're standing for. And if they're not standing for it, then you would have to be wrong in what you assume that they stood for. And that means they pulled the okie doke on you so hard that you still believe they stood for it. And they over here. But you stood for that. That's what you stood for. Yeah, I did. And I still stand for it while I'm standing over here. That's slick. That's game. You mean to tell me the nigga ain't got to stand there no more and you still telling him he stood for that? Right, exactly. Exactly, brother. And I was thinking of that when I was looking at Farrakhan. I'm like, that's cold. But that ain't cold. It just shows you how stupid. There you go. Them niggas stood for exactly what happened to them. Because whatever you stand for, you stand for it. For 10 years I've been doing this, so I know about standing. And I've seen the options and the obstacles, and I've stood again. And stood again. And stood again. And stood again. And in the end, I will only be as valuable as what I stood on the day of the end. Did y'all hear the point I'm making? You can go and show me my history and say, oh, it's beautiful, like the brother came today. Give me some of Farrakhan old stuff. I said, there's no such thing as an old Farrakhan. There's only one Farrakhan. And he just defined himself into what he really is now. You see the point I'm making? Ain't no old person in new, ain't no old Malcolm in new. Malcolm dated white women when he was out in the streets, and he ended up loving white women at his death. Is that right? There's no old Malcolm and no new Malcolm. There's no old Farrakhan and no new. There's only one Farrakhan. There's only one any of us. And what happened is the future and the challenges, resistance, obstacles, circumstances, conditions brought out the reality of what them people was really about.
So expose yourself, regardless.
I've been a vegetarian for the last 10 years. I've grew my locks for the last 10 years. I've went against the resistance of cutting them off. You feel what I'm making? I have went through whole years where I'm like, man, I'm out of this hair. But I went through the resistance and loved my hair again because I said, who else's hair could I have? You understand the point that I'm making? I went through the resistance and stood for that and watched people cut their hair off. And they tell me, well, I'm still conscious. You conscious, but you ain't conscious of having hair. You can't mean to tell me you have the same conscience because right now you're not conscious of having hair on your head in this moment. So you don't have the same consciousness.